Hello and welcome to another episode of Millennial Trends, the Millennial Trends segment right here on the Voices of Millennial show. Of course, this is the news bulletin. This news bulletin, rather, is to give you fresh updates on everything and anything happening around us. So, first off, let's talk about health. Did you know that autistic children here in Ontario have been experiencing significant delays in accessing government funded core therapy programs? Hence, the number of kids enrolled are actually declining for these programs, despite the ballooning waitlist for majority of these kids. This is a wake-up call for all of us to advocate for better healthcare services in and around us. Remember, early intervention can make a huge difference in the lives of these children. Now, on to some good news in the economic world. Not the income gap between white and black North Americans is getting smaller for our generation, which is progress, right? But there's still a lot of work to be done, to be honest. We need to keep pushing for policies that promote equal opportunities and address systemic barriers. And on a personal level, investing in education, finding a mentor, and planning for finances wisely can make a big difference. So, again, we are advocating for equal opportunities, but then we're also advocating to meet up to the requirements rather for these opportunities. So let's keep striving for that financial freedom and support each other in our journeys. Climate change is a hot topic, literally. A lot of us find it tough to talk about this with older relatives, which is interesting. However, if you're looking to get involved, join a local environmental group and advocate for sustainable practices in your community. There's a lot of things happening around climate change right now. And last week and the week before, we did talk about, the climate change and the things that are going around during the Millennial Trends segment. So we encourage you right here on Love Bay Radio to please join your community or any environmental group and advocate for sustainable practices in your community. Every little bit helps, and together we can make a big impact. So let's be the change we want to see and protect our planet for future generations and generations to come. The housing market is a wildfire right now, with mortgages cost rising above, skyrocketing. More first-time buyers are going for a 40-year plan, for loans to keep those monthly payments manageable. So we advise before you jump in, make sure to evaluate your long-term financial goals and maybe chat with like a financial advisor, talk to your bank, talk to, if you don't have a financial advisor, you might want to talk to your bank manager to be able to advise you on what kind of loan to get or what kind of mortgage plans to get, especially for the long run. It's all about finding the right balance, to be honest, making informed decisions. And yes, home sweet home, here we come. We hope that you find something suitable for you and for your family, because again, owning a home is a big step, especially in this part of the world. So take your time and make the choices that is best for you. Let's talk about social dynamics. Age gap relationships, of course, between millennial women and Gen Z men are becoming more common, and vice versa. And you know what? These relationships can be super fulfilling if there's actually mutual respect and understanding. Open communication, setting clear boundaries, and being mindful of each other's needs are key in these types of relationships. Love, of course, knows no age, right? So if you're in an age gap relationship, embrace it and focus on building a strong and healthy relationship. If you are about to get into an age gap relationship or you are not open to an age gap relationship, well, you should probably do your research and you might want to consider it, because there are lots of good stories out there about these types of relationships. Now, let's dive into some community news. Black-owned businesses are thriving across Canada, and it's amazing to see, you see. Supporting these businesses not only boosts our economy, but also strengthens our community. Whether it's a local restaurant, a boutique, or a tech startup, let's make an effort to shop Black and support our entrepreneurs. Every dollar spent is a vote for a stronger, more vibrant community. So I hope that moving forward, you would be able to patronize, startups, especially from, our community. And speaking of community, let's talk about mental health. It is so important to take care of our mental well being, to be honest, especially in these challenging times. Whether it's through therapy, meditation, or simply talking to a friend, let's prioritize our mental health. It is really important. Remember, it's okay to ask for help. And taking care of your mind is just as important as taking care of your body. Let's break the stigma and support each other in our mental health journeys. If you know someone who is not at their best, be open to actually hear from these people, and do not kind of stigmatize or shame people when they actually talk about like private things. Be open to support them in their mental health journeys and vice versa. In entertainment news, In entertainment news, there's a lot happening in the world of Black Canadian artists. From music to film to literature, our creatives are making waves and telling our stories in the most unique ways. Let's celebrate their achievements and support their work, whether it's streaming a new album, watching a film, or receiving a book by a Black Canadian artist. Let's show our love and appreciation for their contributions to our culture. And finally, let's talk about giving back to the community. There are so many ways to support our community, whether it's through volunteering, donating to a cause, or simply being there for someone in need. Let's make a commitment to give back and make a positive impact. Together, we can create a stronger, more supportive community for everyone. So, that is a wrap for today's news bulletin. We would give more time because we have a special guest on the show today. Thank you for tuning in today. Until we meet next Wednesday, do well to continue the conversations on all our social media handles, on Facebook, on Thread, on Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Feel free to drop in your comments. If you want to hear any stories, let's know the stories you want to hear. Let's know the stories you want to talk about. Again, we're all about amplifying your voice as millennials right here on the Millennial Trend segment of the Voices of Millennial show. I remain your host, Kemi Famous, and I'm handing over to Annamaria Amissah for the rest of the show. Do stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Kemi, for the news bulletin, and that is how we do introduce you, lovely listeners, to the Voices of the Millennial show, coming to you right here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Radio. Many thanks for joining us. Always making a point to join us. As you know, this is the show where we put the spotlight on young individuals. We amplify your voices, concerns, and aspirations of our generations. Thank you so much for tuning in. Standing on the last news bulletin of Kemi on giving back to the society. Indeed, tonight we have a very special guest on the show. This is an inspiration. He is an individual who used the most challenging situation in his life to turn things around, pick himself up, and pick others up along the way. So, this is going to be the best time to tune in, sit down, relax, and let's hear the story of Marlon Walters, the founder of MW Impact. You're welcome to the show, Marlon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. So, we just dive straight into it so that we waste no time. Can you start by introducing yourself, telling us about your background as a person, as an individual?
Yeah. Marlon Walters from, UK Birmingham, from a Caribbean Jamaican family, raised in Birmingham, and traditionally come from a sporting background. I had the pleasure to play football growing up for a wonderful football club called Wolverhampton Wanderers. And yeah, in general, that's the kind of path I followed growing up. It was a sports path. Slightly was introduced to martial arts as well growing up, for various reasons. But as having a passion for sport, it kind of gave me the opportunity to connect with other communities. When I was growing up at the time in my area, there was kind of a divide. But what I found with the sport is that it brought a kind of a cohesion, a collectiveness that, you grow up as a one instead of having a community divide, which we had growing up in my area. But I always had a passion for working with young people. That was my thing. So as I got older and, the opportunities come, I totally switched into working with young people to help them help them navigate their way through their difficulties, which I kind of struggled with growing up.
So what was the defining moment that led you to the creation of MW Impact?
Yeah, so I'm a proud, very, very, very proud dad and a husband. I had an unfortunate circumstance where my son at the time passed away at a young age, just under 4 months, which kind of catapulted me into a kind of a fearlessness about how I go about my life from that day forward. I think like most young people, kind of consumed by the pressures of society of thinking you have to be a certain way, wear a certain clothing, to have a certain status, being that place, being this place, being that cool crew or cool gang or, cool crowd. But with my little man passing away, it kind of made me, it just forced me to just kind of get rid of everything that was negative and things that really didn't have that relevance and importance. And I wanted to do something that was spiritually rewarding for me. So I have to say, funny enough, everything happens for a reason. I know God has a plan, but I just don't know if I'd have been doing that if that circumstance never happened, So I use that circumstance to predominantly give back to young people and, set up my own organization.
So reading your website and your profile, you say that at MW Impact you provide bespoke training or bespoke mentoring, to individual focusing on mental well-being, support, that kind of thing. So I just want to know, can you explain like the core mission and vision of MW Impact so far? What have you guys done especially?
Oh, so we've interacted with thousands of young people across our region, not only just in the UK. We've gone abroad and we've took that to Jamaica as well, and there's a few more countries that we'll be visiting to impact them further. But yeah, the whole idea of MW Impact and our mission is that young people have a safe place to express themselves, and to kind of help the educational system and help the community and families kind of manage expectations and have an understanding of certain behaviors. And by doing that, we provide them with a very safe, secure atmosphere for them to express themselves so they can explain some of the difficulties they've coped with. So, there's no sugarcoating it. We are dealing with some of the region's core children with core issues and difficulties, and that's from sexual abuse, that's growing up in the care system, that's been around drug abuse, alcohol abuse, verbal abuse, just physical abuse, low income families, racial difficulties, and we want to make sure that we're giving these young people with these complex issues a platform not only to express themselves, but a building block to improve and kind of cope with the expectations of the education system and the community that we live in.
I know that you emphasize you made mention of the circumstances surrounding how you came up with your company, but I
Mm.
just want you to emphasize or reiterate again specifically why you decided to focus specifically on young people's health and well-being and support.
Yeah, we feel, myself and the organisation, we just genuinely feel that young people are the fuel and the energy behind a better community and a better world, full stop. I mean, I'm a firm believer that they have a lot of creativity, they have the potential to improve all our circumstances worldwide, in my opinion. But the key thing was, for me, it was the spiritual fulfillment that I would personally get from working with young people. So even though I was continuing my football journey on a semi-professional level and I was working in a normal job at the time, I would still do this for free, for nothing, for almost 4 years. I'd go into schools on my days off and work for nothing to just interact with these kids, and I would leave feeling so spiritually rewarded. And I haven't, outside of being a dad, I haven't felt that in anything I've done. Even when I was pursuing my football career, if my team would win, or you just got paid and everything's good, and you're going out on the weekend or whatever it is, and score a goal. I didn't score many, but if you did score a goal, it's such an amazing feeling. But my boys and my fulfillment came from interacting with young people. If you've got that, if you've been responsible for helping just people in general, but there's something for me special about a young person, and I think it's connected to my situation, my son passing, because I'd just like to think that if any of my children are in need, that they'd come across a human being that would guide them correctly, give them correct advice. If they were stranded, get them home. But there's something really special, I think, that if you're having a hand in creating a better future for a young person, it's something so fulfilling for me. And that's the ethos that we have straight right across our organisation. All our mentors aim to have a tremendous impact on the young people that we interact with.
Usually they would say that mentoring young adults sometimes can be challenging with regard to where they are coming from, or where they grew up, what kind of things they've been exposed to, and all of that. Now, would you say that your personal experiences has defined or helped you shape how you approach the mentoring services that you provide at MW Impact? And I know it's not just you, I mean, all of your staff. Is there particular training that you go to make sure that your mentoring approaches fits in for all types of young individuals that you interact with?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually something that we're very serious and picky about. Myself and our management team, we cherry pick our mentors, and what we aim to be is diverse in our thinking. Not just visually diverse, but actually in our thinking, and that's appreciating that in any community, there's pockets of communities that have different issues and different circumstances that they have to deal with. So we want to make sure that our team that we pick can cope and understand and have an understanding of the different issues collectively within a one community. And we still at that point where we make sure that we vet and cherry pick our team. I know personally, my personal experiences growing up has shaped me to be able to communicate with people, full stop. I do believe at one point growing up, I would have been, if I stayed in the same place or on the same track, I think I would have been segregated and believed there's only one way to communicate, to problem solve. And this is where I'll go back to the inclusion of sport. And it doesn't have to just be in sport, it could be anywhere, just the inclusion, a gathering where people from different backgrounds and communities can congregate. That helped me, one, understand that as a young black man, it isn't just a young black man with young black man problems. There is dual heritage problems, there's cultural problems in the Asian community, the Jewish community, the white community, dual heritage relationships. There's so many different reasons and circumstances that can shape a young person. I would like to be that. Well, we are that organisation that takes all that on board. But to do that, you have to be diverse in your thinking and also how you recruit your staff. So it's a very important thing that you just mentioned, because it is something we take really seriously. Yeah, we don't think we could have that impact without thinking along that way.
Can you walk us through a typical day at MW Impact? I'm particularly interested in what a mentoring process looks like in your organization.
Yeah, I mean, we've got many. I mean, what we do, we make sure that we are flexible in our approach. So there's the traditional way of you and I could sit across the table, have a discussion about the things that we are finding difficult or finding good or having complications with. But because of the complexities of the young people, not everyone is as vocal. People like to express their ways and their feelings in different ways, whether it's art therapy, music therapy. So we would do art therapy sessions where a young person may not want to talk as much, but they will display how they're feeling through drawing, through written work, poetry. We do music programs. So some of our guys do DJ programs and music beat building programs, production programs. Gym programs. We can do it through fitness, through sport, beauty therapy. We use a lot of therapeutic services that we find it's a different way of communicating. It's almost giving a little bit something to them so they can express themselves and help us build positive relationships with them. So we would work in primary and secondary schools and use all these different types of techniques to engage with the young people. And what we found with that, it actually creates a more cooperative young person, because they've got they've been stimulated. So when it comes to going in and learning, there's it makes that process slightly easier because they've been stimulated, as we know, in the education system and even in work. Not everyone can just sit and absorb information and information process from 9 a.m. in the morning to 3:30 p.m. So we come in and complement the education system and use some of our therapeutic methods and our people skills to help engage with these young people, to help them acknowledge that look, you need these elements, but we will complement you and meet you halfway if we can get that, and you can go and give a little bit back to the schools and help the schools run functionally. We think it's important because we all know that if they can have a little bit of education, it holds them in good stead for when they get older. Absolutely.
So how do you identify and recruit your mentors, and how do you match them to mentees and mentors, just to be sure that you get the right match to support the young people that need the help?
Yeah, I mean, what I found is I've got this thing. I think good people with the same objective, 9 times out of 10, I believe, know good people with similar objectives. So I have people in the field, in the community that would understand that you need certain characteristics to interact with people within the community. Communication is a huge thing for us. People skills is massive. I'm a massive advocate for the great things that are done in the education system, but I'm a community man. I'm a people orientated person. So we would 9 times out of 10, if you have that ability to connect with a human being, we would sometimes look past that academic qualification. And because we feel, it's fantastic to have a master's degree and honors and education, out your ears. It's great. But sometimes it's difficult to use those skills that you've accumulated if you can't connect with another person. So we're massive on people skills, and in the environment we're in, we've been doing this for, voluntarily for 4 years, and then collectively as an organization for around 10. And we get to see and understand which type of people would fit our dynamic. And we've just started bringing in some young people that we've mentored across the years. We have a few apprenticeships that are running at the moment, and because we've already seen that they have the characteristics to come and help us push forward. And we also know that you have to be not just diverse, like I mentioned before, but also in terms of age. The youngest person we have working at MW 16, and the oldest person that's mentoring at the moment is 51. So we think with that, you kind of can deal with circumstances on different type of levels, you know.
Individuals have evolving needs, especially in a rapid changing world like we have right now, where social media is taking over and everything. How is MW positioned to adapt to all these changing needs of these young individuals?
You know what really helps us is the fact that we would see that the younger mentor is just as important as the older mentor, where the older mentor will have different experiences and have maybe a certain composure about them in certain circumstances, because, you know, let me be honest, you know, sometimes we're dealing with young people that are self-harming, and, you know, they're making certain disclosures about, you know, being sexually abused and things. And me being so experienced in it now, I can compose myself, as you know, as a 40-year-old man. Maybe the younger mentor, it may affect them a bit slightly because they may have not been exposed to that type of disclosure. But what the younger mentor has been exposed to is social media problems, you know, the pressures of drip, the sexual pressures, even things of music choices, where if you like a certain music, where society will place you. The young people have been dealing with that very recently. So the young people that we're bringing in, when they're interacting with the young people at schools, they have more understanding of the young people problems, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Sometimes our more mature mentors can have that composure in a situation and just have a further insight to, you know, how things look for a young person if they decide to continue on a certain path, if they display certain behaviors in a consistent way, both positive and negative, and just have that composure to maybe say, look, you know, my experience, I've seen where things like this can go, so here's my advice. So I think it's just because we have an incredible blend of young and more mature,
Yeah.
we can deal with more current problems, you know, where we're a bit more fortunate having more mature mentors when we're doing things such as family liaison, where we have to work with parents and try and piece families back together and be a mediator for mom and dad, or carer or grandparent. You have that more understanding, you know, maybe because some of the parents then may have experienced that. So that's where I think we've got a fantastic blend within our organization.
I know that from the conversation, your company seems to have a firm grip of what it is doing because of the experience that you have had and everything. But I cannot help but ask, what has been the greatest challenge since you set up this business, and how have you guys been able to overcome them?
The greatest challenge, if you want the truth, I think the greatest challenge is trying to impact as many children as possible. We are fortunate where we are working with some incredible schools, some incredible councils, and they trust our organization to deliver, you know, fantastic work, which we have been doing. My problem is I can sit here and speak to my wife and say, I just don't think I've done anywhere near enough. I know there's thousands of people, not just locally to me in the UK, but thousands of people across the world that just could do with the access to good people, full stop, and some people that want to give back and actually have a passion and a love for young people that look at them the same way we do, because we really do understand that they are the future and they need fueling, they need supporting. You know, if we can help young people navigate through these difficult circumstances, they can actually help us as we become older people. They can make our older years more manageable and more sustainable because we fed into them. And, you know, the kind of frequency that myself and my management team and my mentors operate on, we do believe what we give will be returned. So I think just my challenge now is okay, we're in a load of schools, we've impacted thousands of kids, but there's loads more to do, and I don't know. My problem is I don't know when I'll be satisfied, but it's just probably appreciating that. Look, there's some difficulties, there's some tough challenges. And it's probably just appreciating those challenges, and, you know, sometimes putting away your personal circumstances, how you feel about that, and keeping that composed nature and that firm belief that if we can help this young person or young people push through their current circumstances, you could really, really change your life. So it's just sometimes that making sure you're giving the correct advice and making sure that we're staying composed. Because I think if we don't keep that composure, once a young person discloses something that's uncomfortable, you could lose them right there and then. They need to feel, okay, I've said this, and I'm glad I've said it to that person because their reaction has made me feel better, not worse. So I don't know if I've answered the question as fully.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah,
You have. Let's talk about success stories. So, do you have any success story you are very excited to share with us since the inception of MW Impact?
Yeah, I mean, there is a few. You know, not even just for myself. There's a few. I've had letters. I've had people approach us about, you know, times we've helped them, and if it wasn't for us and our intervention programs, they you know, some people, you know, I had a young gentleman said to me that he was on the brink of, you know, suicide because of his some of the problems that he had at home, some of the abuse he'd had at home, and he felt his interaction with us just gave him a more positive outlook. My personal story, you know, I've been looked at as, you know, as a father figure to some young people, and they've told me personally that they believe I'm a massive reason why they've progressed in life. But there's, honestly, I could talk about hundreds and hundreds, because that's just me personally. The team itself, you know, is way more than an individual. We're individually impacting people, and collectively we're helping a lot more people than I ever could. But yeah, a success story, I would say a recent one is, you know, from a young lady that had a really, really difficult childhood. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's been abuse there, sibling abuse, and where I would honestly say I think that the system and the education system didn't really know what to do with that person, and they trusted that person with us, and that person's managed to finish school without getting into any, you know, too many serious situations with the law, keep a big portion of her mental health together in order to come and actually do some work for us. And now she's in schools working with young people, and now she sees a future. She sees income, she sees potential, she sees that vision of, you know, she can pass her test and she can move from where she was to something better. And what's great for me is that MW have always providing that vision for her and the platform. So yeah, there's just so many, you know. I just sometimes like when I see a young person smile again and walk with a bit of a swagger and a confidence, because I just know they're looking at the world differently to what they were when they first engaged. And, you know, I think there's something, you know, inside, you know, if you can feel good about yourself inside, that to me, it's huge success, because I've been there myself where I felt I've needed a name brand over my chest to feel like I've got a role to play, I've got a position. You know, now I'm just like, no, actually, because I'm doing things that fulfill me. I walk out, I walk with a swagger, I walk with I'm very energized, I'm very, very tired. I'm excited about getting up every day and interacting. But yeah, I just think, you know, I'm just very grateful for, you know, God provided me with the opportunities to help his children. I think I'm a very fortunate young person. I've got loads to do. I've got loads of places to go and impact. And thankfully, I've got a tribe, a great team, a village, a community of MW Impact mentors that are right behind me, in fact, beside me. And some of the youngsters I'm learning from them, because they are, I'm telling you, if we want ideas and we want to push forward, it's important to really rock with these young people. It's important. They are definitely the fuel.
Counting your blessings is definitely important in life. So what are the metrics? Do you have specific metrics that you use to measure success at your firm?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we still live in a world of stats as well. So, you know, we're very fortunate that some of these, a lot of the schools will invest in our services. And how we measure that is by kids staying in school, kids turning up to school for a start, because there's a big problem in the UK with kids even coming to school. So we're helping with attendance issues. Once they're in the schools, are they going to classes? So we've helped improve the statistics in young people actually going into class. Incidents being reduced at school. So, how we now ask our young ladies and young men to deal with conflicts. Unfortunately in the UK, we're very aggressive. It's very aggressive here. And, a lot of conflicts is solved with, aggression and physical. And, we're teaching these young ladies and young men to, act as young kings and young queens and, respect themselves, respect one another. Can only do that with building great relationships with them. So we're also grateful to them for being so patient with us and understanding what our objective is. So yeah, and we're tackling all types of subjects such as teenage pregnancy, sexual health, dieting, the impacts of the imagery issues that is massive in the UK at the moment. We've got young people looking in the mirror at themselves physically and not too happy with how they look because of the social media pressures and stuff like that. So we're helping them navigate through these things. We tackle subjects that the education system may not always have the time to do because they are there to teach. We tackle all those taboo subjects, and that's gang culture pressures, drug culture pressures, sexual pressures, interracial relationship pressures. How do they cope with things of that nature? All those kind of subjects we address. And we'd be naive to feel that these are not the things that the kids are coming to school with. Some kids can't just come in and sit down and absorb information. They're coming from low income. They don't necessarily have access to their bathroom until they come to school. They don't have access to food until they come to school. Low income families normally a massive target for drug organizations, gang organizations. As we know, if the young people don't feel warmth where they live, they'll go and find that warmth somewhere else. So all these pressures is what we deal with. So at present, we're doing really well in tackling these subjects and these problems and working with a lot of families within the community. And of course, getting parents on board with the bigger objective is a massive thing because no one's really more important than parents or carers. So we are what's the word? We are judged on how well we deal with those things. We are dealing with the difficult things the schools can't really handle.
Yeah.
So we're coming in and handling those situations, and at a rate where it's growing, and we're recognised as one of the leading mentoring organisations in our region.
Okay, that's interesting. So I know that feedback is also very important in helping an organization to do better in terms of rendering services and all that. So how do you collect feedback from your individuals, the mentees, and the people that the young people that you mentor? How do you collect the feedback, and how does it impact how you better your services?
Yeah, so we literally have like an impact data form. So we would, at the end of a term or an academic year, or at the end of a mentoring program with students, we give them the questionnaires to get some honest feedback. They don't have to put their name on it. Get some honest feedback to get an understanding of how they felt their interaction has been with us. What we also do, we ask the teachers to present one. So they don't feel any pressure. Let's just say a young kid like me and wouldn't want to upset me, but I've got an annoying nature about me, and he wouldn't want to say. We want to make sure they haven't got that pressure. So we ask the teachers to get them to fill something out online for us, so we can pick up any kind of weaknesses we may have or areas that we need to improve. And we also get feedback from the school. We send them information for them to fill out how they feel that child is now interacting within the school premises since their engagement with one of our mentors, and where they think that we can improve as an organisation, whether it's punctuality, whether it's uniform, whether it's presentation, which I hope it'll be none of those things, because we cover all these things in our company training days. We're very big on appearance. I'm very big on all things that help build relationships. So this is what I'll say about the importance of having an understanding of a community and a culture. So if we use, for instance, the fist bump, we use a touch, I would be making sure that people in our team that don't come from a community that that communicate that way. I'd say, look, if a young person is extending a hand, it's almost as important as someone extending, to shake a hand. It's their way of building a building a bridge. So I'm on all things communication and, punctuality, appearance, conduct, all those things are really important.
Are there any notable partnerships or collaborations, that you would say has helped to amplify your work?
Yes, I would say. So in the UK, sometimes when you work at a school, they're normally part of an umbrella or a trust. So if you're doing some impactful work in the school, with sometimes, when there's panel meetings and discussions going on, we may be lucky enough to be brought up in that conversation. And then the word spreads positively. I think what's been really important is our relationships that we've built with the local authorities. And I think you call them in your country, I think it's the province.
Yeah, the provinces.
Provinces, yeah. We've built some really great relationships. Our reputation has spread. And we're doing a lot more work with young people that are not even accessing school, which means that we would go to their home, we collect them from their home, offer our therapeutic services to them within the community, retailing education programs. So if they're not liking that teacher or the school environment, we're using our tutors to drip feed maths, English, science, so they have an opportunity to get something. But we do that an MW way, which is not in the classroom. And to be able to do that, we have to be trusted with, let's say, the government's children, if you want to put it that way, and people's children. So yeah, being able to do some work with the different provinces and local authorities, it's held us as an organisation in really good stead. So it sets us up really positively for the future.
Right. You're tuned into Love Bay Radio, and we are having a conversation with Marlon Walters. So this is the Voices of the Millennials, the show where we amplify voices, concerns, and aspirations of our generation. If you're following the conversation, let us know what you think so far by leaving us a message on YouTube or wherever you're watching me on LinkedIn Live as well. So just let's hear you. Let's talk about community engagement, Marlon. How do you engage the wider community to, raise awareness about the work that you do at Impact?
Actually doing community work. So, going into community centres, community establishments, away from education, and having better relationships with parents. And that sometimes means you have to go into areas where they haven't got real access to anything, funds, food, clothes, positivity is very low, aspirations are low. We have to go and mix with those people. I'm from that type of area myself. It's it's very comfortable for me to have conversations with people from all kinds of backgrounds. But social media helps. We do as much as we can, kind of let people know what MW do, what we're about, what our ethos is, what our objectives are. But a lot of it's actually hands-on. Going to certain seminars, going to certain community functions, letting parents know that if they're having difficulties within their area, they can actually access us, and predominantly delivering a fantastic service as well, because the children carry the best messages. So if a young person feels comfortable and if a parent can see that there's a change, I don't think there's any better message than actually doing what you're saying you're going to do. I think that's the best way of a message traveling, actually doing some good work, actually having a positive impact with the community, being a go-to, which means you have to communicate on a level with a certain level of composure and an understanding, and trying to problem solve. And it's important that some of the parents that we work with, they actually understand what they have access to, what help they can get out there, because some of the parents don't necessarily understand what they have access to and what's out there for them. So the only way we can do that is actually getting out there in the wider community and giving them an insight to what we do. And we do that sometimes again for our social media channels as well.
With regard to community support, do you get enough support from the community, would you say, so far?
Good question. Our report's very good with the community. I think governmentally, it's a strange one because we've never, as an organisation, we've never asked for anything. We do everything in-house. But let's, for instance, say the provinces and the local authorities, they're aware of what we're doing. I don't think if we didn't prompt them to highlight some of the needs, I'm not necessarily thinking that they're going to be forthcoming to give and help. So I'd have to probably say no, but that's many organisations across the UK. We probably don't get enough support from the communities because there's a lot of things shutting down. Obviously, there's financial reasons behind that. But let's say we had more access to buildings to set up more youth clubs and stuff for the community. It would solve a lot of problems because sometimes it's out of boredom, it's out of lack of stimulation that a lot of these problems occur. And also, it would be an outlet for people that are having difficulties within their home. If they're outside their home and having access to physical activities, or having access to cooking lessons, or having access to art lessons or DJ sessions, and they have access to clothing and things, it would make their time outside their home more productive, and we have a lack of that. So yeah, as an organisation, yes, we do, because we have a good support, but I think collectively, as a community, things could be a lot more done. We could have, the kids need access to space, and they need access to safe spaces. If they have access to safe spaces, they won't be on the street as much, in my opinion.
Are there opportunities for potential stakeholders or the public who are seeing your good work? Can they get involved or support MW Impact? How easy is that? Is there an opportunity like that to happen?
Yeah, well, funny enough, we've just opened foundation. So one of our managing directors, Mary Mill, she works tirelessly behind the scenes. So between us, we've just managed to set up a foundation. So that process is now easier. So if there was community organisations that wanted to support what we're doing, who would buy into it, that we have now that platform for them to do so, because we have a foundation, and with a foundation, it is solely whatever's put in, it all comes back out just for community, just for young people. And we now have made that process a lot easier for us. And being honest with you, it isn't something that we did up until recently. So, I mean, I can say one thing, that the support hasn't necessarily been offered, but at the same time, I'm like a fiercely independent person, and it's almost like I won't ask, I just want it done. So we'll just do it. And there's a lot of free work that we do in the community. There's a lot of kids that get access to our services for absolutely nothing, because we do that for the love of it. You're not going to see a young person go without engagement for just because of anything financial. But in order to do that, we would need a little bit more support when we were offering those services. And yeah, but with the foundation, that becomes easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, I see Shannon Williams saying, good conversation tonight. Thank you for tuning in. That's what we do here. We put the spotlight on stories that inspire our generation. So, yeah, I mean, basically, I'm just wondering if you have challenges with funding, to sustain your mentorship organization, and how you're navigating through that.
So in a nutshell, in the years we've been going, never been funded. Everything that we do is in-house. So our relationships have been built with the education system, and the education system are incorporating our organization within their budget. So we don't get funding at all. We are hoping that in the future now, because of the bigger scale that we're operating on, like I say, this is way bigger than me, although it started with myself and the vision and just me going into schools on my own. It's way bigger than myself now, and I'm actually realizing the need for the reach, but actually our potential. So as we're going wider across the UK, across the world, we will need support. for sure will need support to operate on a bigger scale. So I can't say that it stops me, because I'll get up and go anyway. I'm a mentor. I know what my calling was and is. There's no amount of finance that's going to motivate me. Mine comes from in here, and what my calling is from the Almighty. So the funding isn't going to stop us, whether it's given or not. It will only enhance us. It will help us reach people on a bigger scale, which we're going to do anyway. And I'm hoping now, with the foundation being set up, that we can look positively towards that, because like I say, we do have a good reputation in our region, and I'm sure once we present what we're looking to do on a bigger scale, I'm sure the opportunities and the collaborations will come governmentally.
How do you envision MW in the next 5 years?
To have covered more cities within the UK, to have done a lot more for children deprived in different countries. We've got ambitions to visit a few schools in a few, not just third world countries either, you know, just countries that could deal with an MW perspective, you know, and a positivity that we bring. And the fact that we're from the UK, sometimes it fascinates other kids when we come with a UK perspective, but they probably don't realise that the UK have huge issues as well. And for us as a mentoring organisation, for me personally, I learn so much more when I'm in different environments and different countries, because I'm faced with different problems, and it makes me a better mentor. It gives me better experiences in what children in the world are dealing with, not just children where I'm from. So I see us having a few of our own spaces. We've just opened a space in an area called Warwickshire in Birmingham, not too far from Coventry, in between Coventry and Leicester, which is a safe space for young people to come. It's like an alternative provision school where the kids at the mainstream schools are having difficulties. We've just opened one. I'm hoping to open as many as we can, and not just impact the kids, you know, in the UK, but globally. Hoping to do some work in Saudi Arabia, which we've been asked to do. Got continued work to do in Jamaica, where my mom's from, in Clarendon, and also there's a place in Gambia that I'm in negotiations with at the moment to interact with some young people over there. So yeah, it's just for us to grow as an organisation, and also appreciate that we've got a wonderful mentoring team. Want to make sure those guys are treated and feel as special as possible, because what they're doing is amazing. They really are changing some kids' lives. The reason some kids come to school is because of the interaction they've had with our mentors, which for me is remarkable. So the work won't stop. We're just getting started.
Yeah. As we wrap up on this conversation, it's been a very wonderful conversation. But as we wrap up on this, I'm going to give you a question 2 in 1. So what keeps you motivated or guides you to continue what you're doing, the good work that you're doing at Impact? And I want you to give a piece of advice to somebody who is willing to start an organization or is trying to start up something, a similar thing, but needs that motivation or that advice to push the person to get inspired and continue with the vision.
The motivation one is really easy. That's my children, my wife, my son that passed away. I'm absolutely motivated to turn that pain into power. As a good friend once said to me, that's really easy. I'm extremely energized. I'm a 4 o'clock in the morning type of person. I put in 16, 17, 18 hours daily. That's no problem to me. So my energy, my motivation comes from what I have right underneath my roof, which is my family. That's everything for me. That's all I need. A bit of advice I would give to somebody trying to start their own thing is just to do something that gives you spiritual fulfillment, and everything else will come. And that you have to be brave enough to understand that there's going to be certain family members, certain friends that you may have known from school, that you've known for 10, 15, 20 years, a relationship, a partner. Not everyone is going to appreciate your vision, and that is absolutely fine, because that's your vision and not theirs. but you may have to be brave enough to segregate yourself from them in order to chase that. And I feel God will just put people in your path that will steer you towards what you're trying to do. So that's the key thing. The thing that drove me to do this voluntary is because I was passionate about it. I'm still passionate about it. There's nothing that can get in the way of my personal passion for what I'm doing. So you have to appreciate difficulties are going to come. You're going to have a lot of no's, a lot of people that are not going to believe, you're probably the first to wake up, last to go to sleep, last to receive any kind of income. That's absolutely fine. That's part of the process. So it's just being comfortable with that. And I think what helps with the difficult phases is the passion, is the enjoyment. So instead of going for a title, which is what a lot of people do, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a policeman because it sounds good. That's what mom wants me to do. I want to be a sportsman because that's what dad wants. Brilliant, sounds great. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And as soon as you can tap into that, the quicker you can get to that objective, and just be prepared for segregation from people that you may even love, because it's part of the journey. And that's my only advice.
Thank you so much, Marlon Walters. Thank you for agreeing to share your story with us here on the Voices of the Millennials. It's been a great show tonight. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. It's been the Voices of the Millennials. Like I always tell you, it's a good choice to tune in on Wednesdays at 7 p.m., the Voices of the Millennials, because we always make sure to bring you episodes worth your time and episodes that will continue to explore issues that matter the most to our generation. Many thanks for joining me. My name is Annamaria Amissah. I remain your regular host. Do join us next time on our next episode. I promise you it's going to be as interesting as it has always been on the Voices of the Millennials. Until then, just remember that your voice matters, your story is important, and together we can shape a brighter future for ourselves and the generation next to come. Many thanks. Good night.